Imagine a courtroom, the very heart of justice. Polished mahogany, solemn faces, the weight of the law hanging heavy in the air. But something is terribly wrong. The familiar rhythm of legal proceedings is shattered, the roles reversed. The judge, the one who swore an oath to uphold the law, now stands accused. Not of a simple misstep, not of a lapse in judgment, but of something far more grievous. The gavel, usually a symbol of authority, now echoes with the chilling sound of a life extinguished. For 60 years, Judge Evelyn Blackwood had been a fixture in the quiet town of Millbrook. A woman of impeccable reputation, she was known for her fairness and integrity. Her courtroom was a place of order, her rulings respected, her presence commanding. With her silver hair and stern gaze, she embodied the very essence of justice. A respected pillar of the community, a woman who had dedicated her life to upholding the law. No one would have ever suspected the darkness that lurked beneath her composed exterior. But beneath the veneer of respectability, Judge Blackwood harbored a secret, a dangerous liaison that would unravel her carefully constructed world. A secret that twisted the very fabric of her being, leading her down a path of betrayal and ultimately violence. It began innocently enough, a chance encounter, a spark of forbidden desire. But like a wildfire, it spread, consuming her judgment, blurring the lines between right and wrong. The weight of her hidden actions grew heavier with each passing day, a ticking time bomb threatening to explode and shatter the illusion of her perfect life. The consequences would be devastating, a tragic collision of passion and power that would forever stain her legacy. The catalyst for this tragic unraveling was her stepdaughter, Amelia, a young woman with a keen eye and an unwavering sense of justice. Amelia had always looked up to her stepmother, admiring her strength and dedication. But as she began to notice subtle shifts in Judge Blackwood's behavior, a creeping unease settled in. Amelia's suspicions grew, leading her down a perilous path of discovery. She began to piece together the fragments of her stepmother's secret life, uncovering a truth that would shake her to her core. The discovery of the illicit affair was a betrayal that cut deep, a shattering revelation that set the stage for a confrontation with deadly consequences. The tension mounted, the stage was set, and the inevitable clash between stepmother and stepdaughter would forever alter the course of their lives. What do you think leads someone, especially a respected judge, to such a drastic act? Is it a sudden lapse in judgment, a moment of weakness, or something more sinister, a hidden darkness that finally surfaces? Have you ever witnessed someone you thought was a moral person do something completely out of character? A friend, a family member, someone you admired? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely interested to hear your perspectives on this complex human tragedy. What was the single moment, the pivotal decision, that transformed a respected judge into a cold-blooded killer? What was the catalyst that changed everything? Judge Blackwood's involvement with the Millbrook Correctional Facility began as a seemingly noble endeavor. She volunteered for a prison outreach program, offering weekly classes on legal rights to inmates. It was a chance to give back to the community, to impart her knowledge and perhaps offer a glimmer of hope to those behind bars. The program was designed to foster rehabilitation and understanding, a way to bridge the gap between the justice system and those it served. Little did she know, it would become the stage for her own moral downfall. Michael Reeves, a 35-year-old inmate serving time for armed robbery, possessed a certain magnetism that drew people in. He was quick-witted, articulate, and had a way of making others feel seen. Despite his criminal past, he exuded an air of remorse and a desire for redemption. His charisma was undeniable, a stark contrast to the hardened criminals that surrounded him. It was this charm, this unexpected spark, that caught Judge Blackwood's attention, setting the stage for their illicit connection. What began as casual conversations after class quickly evolved into something more intimate. Judge Blackwood found herself lingering, drawn to Michael's stories and his apparent eagerness to learn. They exchanged surreptitious glances, shared whispered confidences, and passed notes during their sessions. The prison walls, meant to confine, became the backdrop for their clandestine romance. The thrill of forbidden encounters fueled their connection, and the risks only heightened the intensity. Each stolen moment, each whispered word, deepened their bond, leading them further down a path of no return. For Judge Blackwood, the affair was a jolt to her otherwise predictable life. After decades of upholding the law, she found herself breaking it, and the sensation was intoxicating. The illicit relationship ignited a spark she thought long extinguished, a feeling of being alive that she hadn't experienced in years. The thrill of secrecy, the danger of discovery, fueled her desire. It was a rebellion against the monotony of her life, a desperate attempt to recapture a sense of passion and excitement. She justified her actions, rationalizing her behavior as a harmless escape, a temporary departure from her responsibilities. But the lines between right and wrong were blurring, and she was losing herself in the process. Judge Blackwood's actions were not only a betrayal of her marital vows but a serious breach of ethical and legal standards. Her position of authority demanded impartiality and integrity, yet she was engaging in an inappropriate relationship with an inmate. The consequences were severe: the potential for disbarment, criminal charges, and the destruction of her reputation. The risks were immense, yet she continued, blinded by her desires. The affair was a dangerous game, one that threatened to unravel her entire life. Amelia, Judge Blackwood's 25-year-old stepdaughter, possessed a sharp mind and an innate ability to read people. She was observant, perceptive, and always attuned to the nuances of human behavior. Growing up with a stepmother who was a judge had honed her sense of justice and fairness. Lately, however, a nagging sense of unease had settled over her. Something about her stepmother seemed off. The subtle shifts in Judge Blackwood's demeanor, the guarded phone calls, the late nights at the office, these were not the actions of the woman she knew. Amelia's concerns grew with each passing day. Her stepmother, usually a pillar of composure, seemed increasingly distracted and distant. Family dinners, once a cherished ritual, were now punctuated by awkward silences and forced smiles. Judge Blackwood's phone, once rarely used outside of work, now buzzed with cryptic messages at all hours. Amelia noticed her stepmother's frequent trips to the prison, far exceeding the usual schedule for the outreach program. The excuses were flimsy, the explanations vague. Amelia's intuition screamed that something was amiss. A sense of betrayal began to fester, a feeling that the woman she had trusted was keeping secrets that could have devastating consequences. Fueled by a mixture of concern and suspicion, Amelia embarked on a clandestine investigation. She started subtly, observing her stepmother's routines, paying close attention to her conversations. She discreetly checked phone records, noting the frequent calls to an unknown number. Late one night, while Judge Blackwood was asleep, Amelia found the courage to delve deeper. She accessed her stepmother's email account, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. There, hidden amongst mundane work emails, she found a series of intimate messages exchanged with an inmate named Michael Reeves. The words were passionate, filled with longing and desire. Amelia's blood ran cold. She confided in her closest friends, sharing her shocking discovery and seeking their advice. The weight of this secret knowledge was almost unbearable. Armed with the truth, Amelia knew she couldn't stay silent. The betrayal was too deep, the implications too significant. She had to confront her stepmother, to demand answers. But the thought of facing the woman she had admired for so long filled her with dread. The confrontation loomed, a storm cloud on the horizon. Amelia steeled herself for the inevitable clash, her resolve hardening with each passing moment. The tension in the Blackwood household was palpable, a suffocating atmosphere of secrets and lies. The stage was set for a dramatic showdown, one that would have irreversible consequences. The discovery of the affair marked a turning point in Amelia's relationship with her stepmother. The once admired figure of authority was now tainted, replaced by a sense of betrayal and resentment. Amelia's behavior reflected this shift. She became withdrawn, sullen, and at times openly defiant. The respect she once held for Judge Blackwood had eroded, replaced by a simmering anger. One evening, against the express wishes of both her stepmother and father, Amelia threw a party at the house while they were away. The music blared, the laughter echoed through the halls, and the house pulsed with a chaotic energy that was a direct affront to Judge Blackwood's sense of order. It was a deliberate act of rebellion, a way for Amelia to assert her independence and express her anger. The party was a blatant disregard for the rules, a sign that Amelia was no longer willing to play the role of the obedient stepdaughter. The aftermath of the party became the catalyst for the inevitable confrontation. Judge Blackwood, already on edge from the stress of her secret life, returned home to find the house in disarray. The lingering smell of stale alcohol, the discarded cups and plates, the evidence of the revelry that had taken place in her absence. It was too much. Amelia, arriving shortly after her stepmother, was met with a torrent of rage. "Amelia!" Judge Blackwood's voice shook with fury. "What is the meaning of this? You deliberately disobeyed us." Amelia, still feeling the thrill of her defiance, met her stepmother's gaze with a newfound boldness. "You have no right to tell me what to do," she retorted. "Not after what you've been doing." The words hung heavy in the air, a thinly veiled accusation. Judge Blackwood's eyes narrowed, her anger intensifying. "I don't know what you're talking about," she hissed. "Oh, really?" Amelia scoffed. "What about Michael Reeves? Does that name ring a bell?" The color drained from Judge Blackwood's face. Her secret was out. The argument escalated quickly, fueled by years of unspoken resentment and the weight of the revealed secret. Amelia, feeling a mixture of hurt and anger, threatened to expose the affair, to ruin her stepmother's career and reputation. Judge Blackwood's composure finally shattered. In a blind rage, she grabbed a heavy crystal vase from a nearby table. Amelia, caught off guard, turned to leave, but it was too late. Judge Blackwood swung the vase with all her might, the crystal connecting with Amelia's head with a sickening thud. Amelia crumpled to the floor, blood pooling around her. The initial shock quickly gave way to panic. Judge Blackwood stared at Amelia's lifeless body, her mind reeling. What had she done? The years of legal training kicked in, overriding the initial wave of horror. She couldn't afford to succumb to emotions now. She had to act quickly, decisively. Damage control. That was the priority. She had to cover her tracks, protect herself. The legal mind that had served her so well in the courtroom now became her tool for survival. With a chilling calmness, Judge Blackwood set about erasing the evidence of her crime. She cleaned the bloodstains, disposed of the murder weapon, and carefully staged the scene to look like Amelia had left the house voluntarily. She worked methodically, her legal mind dissecting every detail, anticipating every potential clue that could lead investigators back to her. She scrubbed the floors, wiped down surfaces, and even replaced the rug where Amelia had fallen. She disposed of the vase in a dumpster miles away, ensuring it would never be found. She planted a note, mimicking Amelia's handwriting, suggesting she had gone to stay with a friend. Every action was calculated, every step carefully planned. What would you do if you were in Amelia's shoes? Would you have confronted your stepmother, risking everything to expose the truth? Or would you have chosen a different path, one that might have kept you safe? And what about Judge Blackwood? Do you believe that anyone, even a respected judge, is capable of murder under the right circumstances? Is it possible for someone to compartmentalize their actions, to separate their professional life from their personal demons? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to hear your perspectives on this complex and tragic situation. When Amelia failed to return home the night after the confrontation, Judge Blackwood played the role of the distraught stepmother to perfection. She reported Amelia missing, her voice trembling with feigned concern, as she recounted the fabricated story of Amelia leaving to stay with a friend. She cooperated fully with the police, offering them access to Amelia's room and belongings, all the while maintaining her facade of innocence. She even made tearful pleas on local news channels, begging for Amelia's safe return. Her performance was flawless, a testament to her years of experience in the courtroom, where she had mastered the art of persuasion and deception. Despite Judge Blackwood's convincing act, cracks soon began to appear in her carefully constructed narrative. Detectives, trained to spot inconsistencies, noticed subtle discrepancies in her story. Her timeline didn't quite add up, and her emotional responses seemed rehearsed, lacking genuine grief. The note she claimed Amelia had left was examined by handwriting experts, who determined it was a forgery. Furthermore, the investigation uncovered troubling details about Judge Blackwood's recent behavior, her frequent visits to the prison, the late-night phone calls, the whispers of an inappropriate relationship with an inmate. These rumors, once dismissed as gossip, now took on a sinister significance. The focus of the investigation shifted, the spotlight turning towards the grieving stepmother. The turning point came when forensic investigators discovered trace evidence at the Blackwood residence. Despite her meticulous cleanup efforts, Judge Blackwood had overlooked a few crucial details. Microscopic bloodstains were found on the carpet, and a shard of crystal, matching the missing vase, was discovered lodged in the sofa cushions. The evidence was damning, pointing directly to Judge Blackwood as the prime suspect in Amelia's disappearance. The trial of Judge Evelyn Blackwood became a media spectacle. The respected jurist, once a symbol of justice and integrity, was now the accused, her reputation in tatters. News outlets across the country covered the case, captivated by the dramatic fall from grace of a prominent figure. The courtroom was packed with reporters and spectators, eager to witness the unfolding drama. The irony was palpable. The judge, who had presided over countless trials, now found herself in the defendant's chair, facing the judgment of her peers. The prosecution presented a compelling case against Judge Blackwood. They meticulously laid out the evidence, weaving a narrative of a woman driven by passion and fear. They highlighted the inconsistencies in her alibi, the forensic evidence linking her to the crime scene, and the testimonies of prison staff who had witnessed her inappropriate interactions with Michael Reeves. They called Amelia's friends to the stand, who reluctantly revealed the secret Amelia had confided in them, the discovery of the affair, and her intention to confront her stepmother. This testimony painted a picture of a young woman who had stumbled upon a dangerous secret, a secret that ultimately cost her life. The prosecution argued that Judge Blackwood, fearing the exposure of her affair and the ruin of her career, had murdered her stepdaughter in cold blood. They portrayed her as a calculating and ruthless individual who had abused her position of power and betrayed the trust placed in her. Amelia's friends, torn between loyalty and a desire for justice, reluctantly took the stand. They recounted their conversations with Amelia, detailing her growing suspicions about her stepmother's affair and her plans to confront her. They testified to Amelia's fear and anxiety, her determination to expose the truth, even if it meant risking her own safety. Their testimony provided crucial evidence, corroborating the prosecution's theory that Amelia had been murdered to silence her. In a move that shocked both the legal community and the public, Judge Blackwood decided to represent herself at trial. Perhaps it was a misguided attempt to regain control, a last-ditch effort to salvage her reputation. Or maybe it was a manifestation of her arrogance, a belief that her legal expertise would be enough to sway the jury. Whatever the reason, her decision proved to be a fatal error. Without the objective guidance of an experienced attorney, Judge Blackwood's defense floundered. Her cross-examinations were ineffective, her arguments convoluted, and her emotional outbursts further damaged her credibility. She seemed unable to separate her personal involvement from her legal strategy, her judgment clouded by fear and desperation. Her decision to represent herself ultimately sealed her fate. After weeks of intense testimony and dramatic courtroom scenes, the jury retired to deliberate. Their decision was swift and unanimous: guilty on all counts. The verdict echoed through the courtroom, a final condemnation of Judge Blackwood's actions. The once respected judge, who had dedicated her life to upholding the law, was now a convicted murderer, her career and reputation in ruins. The gavel fell, marking the end of a tragic chapter in the annals of justice. The courtroom was filled with a somber silence as Judge Blackwood stood before the judge, awaiting her fate. Gone was the confident demeanor, the air of authority that had once defined her. In its place was a woman broken, her spirit crushed by the weight of her actions. When given the opportunity to speak, Judge Blackwood's voice was barely a whisper. She expressed remorse for the pain she had caused, the life she had taken, and the trust she had shattered. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke of the shame she felt, the regret that would haunt her for the rest of her days. But her words, though heartfelt, could not undo the damage she had wrought. The presiding judge, a man who had known Judge Blackwood for years, listened with a heavy heart. He acknowledged her remorse, but also emphasized the gravity of her crime. He spoke of the sanctity of life, the responsibility that came with her position, and the devastating consequences of her actions. His voice was firm as he delivered the sentence, a sentence that would forever alter the course of Judge Blackwood's life. Evelyn Blackwood, the judge declared, for the crime of first-degree murder, I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The words hung heavy in the air, a final pronouncement of judgment. Judge Blackwood's shoulders slumped, her last glimmer of hope extinguished. The sentence was harsh, but just. It reflected the severity of her crime, the irreversible nature of her actions. As she was led away in handcuffs, the courtroom watched in silence, a collective gasp escaping as the reality of her fate sank in. The case of Judge Evelyn Blackwood left a deep scar on the community of Millbrook. The once respected judge, a symbol of law and order, was now a convicted murderer, her name forever tarnished. The trust in the justice system had been shaken, the illusion of infallibility shattered. The impact on Amelia's family was devastating. Her father, a respected businessman, was left to grapple with the loss of his daughter and the betrayal of his wife. The community mourned the loss of a promising young woman, her life cut short by a senseless act of violence. The case served as a stark reminder that no one is above the law, that even those entrusted with upholding justice are capable of succumbing to their darkest impulses. It sparked conversations about ethics, accountability, and the fragility of human morality. The tragic story of Judge Evelyn Blackwood raises many questions. Do you think justice was served? Was the life sentence an appropriate punishment for her crime? And what lessons can we learn from this case? How can we prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future? These are complex questions with no easy answers. But by discussing them, by sharing our perspectives and insights, we can hopefully shed light on the dark corners of human behavior and work towards a more just and compassionate society. If you found this story compelling, if it made you think about the complexities of human nature and the consequences of our actions, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Sinister Crime Stories for more in-depth true crime content. Together, let's explore the dark side of humanity and learn from the mistakes of others.